In this lesson, we're going to cover the sequence container. The sequence container provides a great, simple way to organize your package. It gives you the options and the ability to collapse and expand the container to hide the tasks that are within. You can also disable an entire container so that every task that is inside that container is now disabled. So it's great for debugging. It provides that great option. You can also add event handlers to react to the execution of the container. So if the container fails, you can have an event handler that reacts in a certain way. So it's really great for management of your package. So that's one of the great things that containers can provide for you. Alright, so in this lesson, we're just trying to kind of experiment with using the sequence containers. We're going to use some script tasks, and we're going to load them into the sequence containers and just kind of experiment with the different things that we can do with the sequence containers. So let's go ahead and create a new package in your Solution Explorer. Right-click on SSIS Packages and say New SSIS Package. Then go back in and rename this one Lesson 31. Okay, and once it asks if you want to rename the package object as well, go ahead and say yes. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is from our toolbox, drag over 3 sequence containers. And once you have these over, go ahead and bring over some script tasks. The reason we're using script tasks is because they don't really require any additional configurations, so we can experiment more with the containers and worry less about the actual tasks that are inside them. So let's go ahead and connect those. And we'll bring over 3 more. Could also copy and paste. You'll notice one thing about using the sequence containers is that they're kind of their own mini packages. As I'm placing these script tasks inside there, that one got a little out of hand there. The reason I say that they're their own mini packages is because within SSIS, whenever you start creating a package, you cannot have 2 tasks that have the same name. But inside, just trying to rename this one. Inside the sequence containers, you're allowed to have, you're not allowed to have the same name, but you can have 2 separate sequence containers that have the same task names inside them. So that's one neat thing. Go ahead and grab these last few ones and connect them all. Once you have these connected, you can go ahead and connect the sequence containers as well by grabbing the entire container and just connecting it to the next. So the first thing we should probably show you is that you cannot connect a script task from here inside the first sequence container to a script task inside a different sequence container. So they can once they're inside the container, you cannot attempt to connect it to another task. It'll bring you this error. So keep that in mind. Once they're inside a sequence container, they're exclusively able to be used inside that container. You can also execute just individual containers. So for instance, if I only wanted sequence container 2 to execute and none of the other ones to execute, I can right click on the container and say execute container. That way just this container executed, so that's a great way. A lot of these tricks I'm going to show you are great for when you're developing your package to see if certain things are going to work, and that's one of those features. We also spoke that you can scope variables to the individual container. So if we wanted to do that, you can select the container and go to your Variables tab. Make this a little bit smaller here and create a new variable. You'll see that it's scoped to sequence container 1. And let's go ahead and name it Lesson 31. It's a int data type, but it doesn't really matter what it's doing here. I'm just trying to show you that you can scope your individual variables to the sequence or the container level. Next thing I'll show you is that you can also disable just the individual sequence container. So let's right-click on sequence container 1, and say you want to disable it. So now if we run this package, it's going to execute everything except for what's in sequence container 1 here. So it executed the first one here and then the last one. Lastly, you can also minimize or collapse the individual containers. So to do that, you can right-click on the container and hit collapse. You can do that on all of them, including the disabled one. And you can execute them just like this. So it hides what the contents of your package are, but you are able to kind of clean up your package. If you have a huge package that has massive amounts of tasks, and you have these these sequence containers that can be collapsed to minimize what you're looking at. So if you only want to look at a certain section of your package, you can collapse the sequence containers. So and you can also execute them like this. There you go. So sequence containers are pretty simple. This is some of the things that you can do with them. Let's go ahead and review what we learned in this lesson. So in this lesson, we learned how to use the sequence container to organize our package better. It's a real simple way of making your package easier to read and easier to follow through with. It's great for debugging, so you can do things like collapse and expand the containers to hide individual tasks within them, which we did as our last step. You can also group tasks and disable the entire container, which we did also. One of the things we didn't do, but it is possible to do, is you can create event handlers, which I think we'll show later in a later lesson. An event handler to run based off the execution of a container. So for example, if a container fails, the event handler can react appropriately to the failed container.